I am going to introduce everybody to this episode of Old Soul Sage Advice. And our young guy on the left of our screen is Matt Feeney, and he's the youngest of the old souls that are involved in the broadcast. And John, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. And did we?
Look, he jumped upside down.
Yep, I think we.
He is quite athletic. I don't even know how he does that.
I know he's doing that. He's doing the upside down push-ups.
Matt, don't be screwing with us like this. Oh wait, he's standing side. No, that's gotta hurt. See, I can't.
I think Matt's having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Wait.
Yep.
Yeah, that's better.
Well, while Matt sorts that out, we have a very long-standing relationship with Matt. Matt and I were on the state championship swim team in Littleton back in, what was it, 79, 80, and 81.
State championship what? The state championship what, Mark?
Swimming.
Huh.
Matt and I were divers on that team. And that's where I met him. And we should wait till he clicks the thing again. Here he is. All right.
Don't touch anything, Matt.
I'm sorry. As soon as you went live, everything went out. I didn't see you. I lost everything. Right when
Are you back now?
I am back, but I
all right.
I had to shut everything off and then reboot it, and now I'm.
You know, that is the fix to all computer problems. Shut it off, turn it back on again.
It's the duct tape of computer stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Matt, are you frozen or are you with us?
I think I'm with you.
Okay.
It was really,
so
Matt,
I was making
really
an introduction saying you and I used to do some swim team stuff at Littleton High School, which we, were having a pretty good experience back then.
That was a good experience. It was an awesome thing to be a part of. The Littleton High School swim team back in the early 80s, late 70s to early 80s. And we won 3 state championships in swimming. And Mark and I were divers, springboard divers on the swim team. Diving is one event at a swim meet. And we just had the time of our lives, kicking butt and taking names. And
you don't realize how great those times are. Actually, Coach Hardy made all of us gymnasts go out for diving. And I was not very good at it. But we were forced to be in there. And I was so lucky to be forced into being voluntold to do that because I got to be around all these great world-class athletes just because, I stumbled into that experience. And it was really a neat thing in my life as it turns out. And then fast forward 20 or 30 years, and I see my good friend Matt Feeney on Facebook, and you're involved in Adaptive Adventures.
That's correct.
Why don't you tell us about that part of your life?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah? Certainly.
What was the source of your disability?
Well, I was going to start, John, I was going to start there anyway. Yeah, in 1988, I was vacationing at Lake Powell with some friends. And being a diver that I was, you get to a place like Lake Powell where there's a lot of cliffs. But I was very calculated about it. I had done some cliff diving, messing around at other lakes, and always checked the depth of the water. And but I got to Lake Powell with some buddies, and we were horsing around on some cliffs. And again, the water was 200 feet deep. So I just landed wrong at a strange angle. I was very high up in the air. It was a high dive. And it was a freak accident. I cracked a vertebrae in my back when I went in. It went into the spinal cord. And so for the last 35 years, I have needed the use of a wheelchair to get around. I'm paralyzed from basically the waist down, a little higher than that, mid-abdomen down. And so that's how I got paralyzed and became, a member of a club I really never wanted to be a part of. But as it turned out, it changed my life in many ways. And what Mark's talking about is an organization I founded in 1999 called Adaptive Adventures. And that was through, after 10 years of experiencing adaptive sports. And it was kind of adaptive sports that kind of, in a way, kind of pulled me out of this. I just thought, if I'm going to have to live the rest of my life as a paraplegic and using a wheelchair, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to go have fun. I'm not going to sit in an office and, nose to the grindstone kind of thing. I just wanted to experience life. And so I quit a perfectly good job in Denver in 1991 and moved to Winter Park and skied 100 days a year for the next 25 years straight. Became a ski instructor. I competed a little bit at first. I had some success, but ultimately I started volunteering, and I got so much more out of teaching skiing than I ever did in almost anything else in my life. So at that point, I became a ski instructor, and that led me to learn how to do adaptive water skiing, and I became an adaptive water ski instructor. I also, at that time in the mid 90s, I was offered a chance to do a ride called Ride the Rockies, which I'm not sure if your audience, if they're local, they probably know it. Colorado, in Colorado, every year there's a ride called Ride the Rockies. It's a week long. It's different every year. It goes anywhere from 380 miles to 450 miles in 7 days. And someone loaned me a hand cycle and said I should try it. And the first day it was 90 miles over the Grand Mesa, if you can imagine that. It was about 6,000 feet of climbing. And I'm doing it all with my arms. And I ended up doing it. And the whole thing, rode every inch the first year. And I thought, okay, I can cross that off the list. And
now, is that an adaptive event, or is everybody doing
that? Is an
Everybody.
able-bodied, 2,000 able-bodied people. And on day one, there was 6 of us, I think, on hand cycles. And just me and another hand cyclist named Steve Ackerman, who actually lives in Fort Collins. He's another paraplegic. He got me involved in hand cycling and loaned me a hand cycle to do this ride. And you can't just show up. You have to do a little bit of training. But I had never gone more than 30 miles in a day in my life on this bike. And the first day was 90 miles with all this climbing. So after the end of the first day, they had to sag 800. So they cut it down to 2,000. It's a lottery. 2,000 able-bodied people do the ride, and I think there were 6 or 7 of us on hand cycles that did it. The first day, out of the 2,000 able-bodied riders, 800 of them couldn't finish the ride. It was too hard, too much climbing. They sagged. They got in a van, and they got a ride to the finish area. I was able to avoid that, and it took me 12 hours, but I rode the 90 miles. And after that, it changed my life. I thought I could do, I'm like, look at all these people around me that are they're just giving up on the first day. And I stuck with it. I rode the whole thing. And then I ended up doing
that's in your nature, Matt.
For the next 12 years, I ended up doing it. And it became a thing for me. Like, nope, I'm not getting off this bike. Once I get on it, I'm not going to get off and ride to the next town. And that kind of became my philosophy. But it gave me a lot of inner strength. But it also, the more active I was, whether it was cycling, skiing, or water skiing, the healthier I felt and the better I felt. So I wanted to share that with others. And so that's why I started Adaptive Adventures in 1999, which was a nonprofit that basically brought programs to people. You know, most nonprofits before that were you had to come to them to participate in their programs. We got a bunch of trailers with adaptive equipment and was serviced underserviced areas with people that wanted to have these experiences but couldn't maybe travel. So we brought stuff to them, and whether it was skiing.
And that's where John and I kind of entered our second chapter with you is we got involved in some of the fundraising activities at the charity. You were looking to do some kind of a poker tournament that turned into a casino night, and you know it maybe didn't finish where our original goal was, but it was just a bunch of guys getting together and being of service.
Absolutely.
And we'd run the poker game and meet everybody, and what a thrilling thing to be involved in for us. John, you did a lot of the photography.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we just kind of participated with our little poker club. And we were
and
just
it's good to have those connections because, you know, growing up, I know, and now it's ridiculous. I have a huge network of people that I can rely on, you know, because we all need that kind of support from time to time, whether it's, hey, the poker club can come and help me do a fundraiser, or, hey, I know this guy who is a wine represent, you know, he's a wine rep for a company. Maybe he can get us some donated, you know, whatever it is. People always came through when I asked them, and I always appreciated you guys for that and your support of it.
Well, and we benefited a lot more than we gave, for sure. And we got to meet some really, really neat people. As a matter of fact, I think that Steve guy that you're talking about, was he the one that slept in the tent that first night?
No.
That was a different guy?
That was a different guy.
I met this guy where he didn't have any legs and he only had one arm, and he was walking around this event one year, and I got to talk to Matt, and he's like, you wouldn't believe that guy. He's tough as nails. I mean, he gets on there, does the whole thing, and then he won't sleep in a hotel because everybody's tent camping, and he gets in there and tent camps with everyone else, and just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'll do your ride. I'll ride your 450 miles in 7 days, and I'll bust my ass. But at the end of the day, I want a bed and a shower. And that's the way we always did it. We got hotel rooms, you know, we would book them. The guy who ran the ride would give us the route the day before. So we could, you know, find hotel lodging in all these small towns throughout Colorado. Because I like camping and I love riding my bike, but that combination that, you know, because you're suffering some of these days, you know,
absolutely.
You're burning 7,000 to 8,000 calories some days, and you have to constantly eat. And I don't ask for much, but you know, if I'm gonna put myself through that, and there is something to be said about a little suffering as well. I think it's good for the soul. And you guys, your podcast is Old Souls. I'll tell you what, there's nothing like a little physical suffering to benefit the soul, I think. So
absolutely.
So I tested my body, but you know, if you want to call me a pansy because I had a hotel room at the end of every day, well then have at it. But the gentleman you're referring to was a Vietnam veteran, and he was tough as nails, and he would ride and then camp. And they had portable showers, and you could shower at the high school, but I couldn't see me
nothing wrong with getting
around a
some
high school
comfort.
shower gymnasium with hundreds of other people, and it just didn't sound like a good thing for me. So,
Well,
but the ride was tremendous.
I think that there's a quantifiable example being set by everybody at whatever level. And it's like, you know, if this guy can do this, then I need to be able to do this. Because every time you look out in the world, somebody's got it worse than you do.
Indeed, and that's why I continue to mentor. As I said before, I mentor through Craig Hospital and through the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation, and I help out, people that it can be a confusing time if you have a spinal cord injury, you're in a car accident, what have you. You don't know what the rest of your life's going to be like as a paraplegic or a quadriplegic. What's my, what am I going to be able to do? What am I going to be able to accomplish? So I can help these people because I've been through it and I've experienced it. And so whether it's for me, it was sports. That was my link to. I wanted to become the best. When I started monoskiing after my accident, it was so hard. And I was just like, how can anyone do this? You're sitting down and you're balancing on one single ski. It took me a long time to figure out, but I got to the point where I could ski everything on the mountain, all the double black diamonds. Any run you put in front of me, I'll beat you down. And I never thought
that's crazy.
I never thought that could happen. And I came as close as I thought I could as becoming as good a skier as I was on two legs than I was after my accident. I came pretty damn close. And I just thought it was a great experience. And so I wanted to share that.
You had to build up a bunch of core strength to make those turns, or how did that work?
I don't really have a lot of core. That was the challenge. My injury happened in the middle of my back, so I don't really have abdominal muscles. So it was harder for me to learn than others. But then again, there's guys that have higher level injuries than I do that have limited use of their arms and hands. Thank God I have all of that, but I don't have lower back muscles or lower abdominal muscles. So it was quite challenging.
So is it just more of a finesse thing that you're carving with, or is it?
You have to learn how to ride a flat ski first and how to control the ski without falling. You have to learn to come to a stop. And I got to tell you, back then, everything was very primitive. The equipment was primitive. Nobody knew how to teach monoskiing in 1989 because it had only been out a couple of years. So there was a lot of trial and error. And so after I became pretty proficient at it, I kind of started rewriting the manuals of how to teach it. And also, once I was able to learn how to teach it better, who better to learn from than another? I was taught by able-bodied people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But who better to learn from than another guy who's in a sit ski?
Now, Winter Park was a big supporter of that, right?
At one time, the National Sports Center for the Disabled in Winter Park was the biggest and, in some people's opinion, the best adaptive ski program on the planet, bar none. It was certainly the biggest in the 10 years when I was there in the 90s. Not so much anymore. They don't do quite as many lessons for various reasons. Probably the biggest reason is back in the late 80s and early 90s, all through the 90s, not every ski area had an adaptive ski program. And now you can go almost anywhere, and they all do. So that's part of it. But there's probably some other factors as well. But it had a big impact on my life. I learned how to ski there. I moved there. I ended up working for them for 10 years, running their sit ski program. And then when I left to start Adaptive Adventures, I kept volunteering for their program because I lived up in Fraser. And I have for the last 8 years. I've been living down in the Front Range here, but I spent 25 years in Fraser freezing my butt off. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience.
So Matt, when I was looking at your information, I saw a name that I don't know if you know that we have this common bond, but Hal O'Leary.
Yes.
And in the mid 70s, I used to go up before they became what they became. I used to go up there to ski, and I invented my own, skied on one ski. I invented my own ledge to put my foot on, and the program was just starting to develop. And Hal would call me and say, I got these people coming in from Switzerland. Would you just come up and ski with them? So I would go up and I would ski with people, and I had an opportunity to be on the U.S. disabled ski team, but I was also playing racquetball at the time, and I couldn't ski and play racquetball and pay bills. So I kind of gave up the skiing, but I loved it. I loved the program. Hal was always great to me. And it was the best program in the world. But in my opinion, what happened is over time, other people saw what Hal was doing. They started their programs, and things just get a little diluted. You know, people had more options. So anyway,
but my phone just said it was running low on battery. So, and my charger's in the next room. Can we take a quick break, or
we absolutely can. We can reconvene at a different time and maybe kind of get some other people involved, or whatever works for you, Matt.
I can't believe it. My phone was like 3/4 charged when I started this. This must eat up a lot of battery.
Well, Matt, I think this is a wonderful start to the storytelling, and if you'll come back, we'll end this show here at 21 minutes, and let's get together again, because there's a lot of other things to explore, especially your scuba diving experiences that you had, and some other different things. I would really like to spend some more time talking about how we can encourage, some of these kids and young adults that really need to know there's a wonderful world of inclusion, and you've definitely forged that. So we'll put some links into some different things for whatever we want to do to reach out to everybody. If the audience wants to ask questions, please do it on the Facebook page. And next time we all get together again, we'll answer any questions that anybody has. And Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. And I'm happy to keep going until my phone dies. I mean, I just wanted to throw that out in case all of a sudden.
That's fine.
I disappeared.
Yeah, let's just run it out, and then we'll set up another time and do the show. We try to do the Old Soul show once a week, and we have a different guest that comes on, and it's nice to have people with your life experience.
Well, you mentioned scuba diving. That's one of these adaptations, if you will, that I've made over the years. Scuba diving, it was presented to me 30 years ago, and I thought, well, that would bore the crap out of me. And I love the water, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't. And I'm so glad I eventually got certified about 25 years ago, and it's a game changer. The ocean may be the most accessible place on the planet.
It's the great equalizer.
It is.
I'm a master scuba diver, and I've been all around the world scuba diving. And
yes. It's great. It's a great adaptive activity because you don't.
Unbelievable.
You don't really need a lot of adaptive equipment. The only difference when I go, I have webbed gloves instead and booties instead of fins. That's the only difference. And
well, when you hit the water, Matt, you're probably a better diver than me. And it doesn't matter what your physical, limitations are, because you get buoyant, and then you learn that skill of kind of moving around the water, and it's amazing.
And I didn't mean to get off track, but to get back to what John was talking about, yes, Hal O'Leary was considered the godfather of adaptive skiing, and he was the guy that hired me. And it's no secret we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things.
We could kind of butted
heads. He was when I volunteered for him before he hired me, we were thick as thieves. As soon as he hired me, he was very tough on me. I will say that. But I think we both had a mutual respect for each other. And then many years later, after I left the NSCD and I was with Adaptive Adventures, I got a phone call from a woman at the Colorado Rockies organization telling me I had won the Hal O'Leary Award for 2008. And I thought it was someone joking, pulling my leg.
Great job.
So I almost just told him to go pound sand, and hang up. I'm glad I didn't, because I said, oh, really? And then she said, oh, yeah. And it was a legitimate thing. So in 2008, I received the Hal O'Leary Award. And
That's pretty cool.
I got to accept the award on the infield of Coors Field. And I spoke in front of 400 people. And it was quite an honor to get the Hal O'Leary Award. I thought maybe they were just really desperate. They just, had to give it to me finally. But
No, that's not
but
true.
Hal is an icon.
Yeah, that's not true. You get those awards. I don't think you did what you did thinking that you were ever going to be honored in a certain way. You led your life. You became a skier. You taught people. You did all these things. And sometimes you get rewarded for that. And you did, and you earned it. And I think it's great having a Hal O'Leary Award. I think it's a great honor.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that, because he is the man that started it all. And but the interesting thing is he became less and less involved in the. I mean, he still was out on the hill teaching when he was in his 70s and maybe even in his 80s. But once the technology got, like, he didn't know much about the monoski that I skied on and how to teach it. So he kind of, in fact, I helped him write part of his book on adaptive skiing. He rewrote the book on adaptive skiing. I wrote the chapters on monoskiing.
Was Hal able-bodied or not?
Hal was able-bodied.
Yeah.
He was a Canadian. But the story goes, he was a ski instructor at Winter Park, and one day after the day of skiing, there was a group from Children's Hospital that was going to come up. They were amputees. And they said, this group of ski instructors at Winter Park, they got them in a room and said, who would volunteer to teach these kids? And the story goes that Hal was the only one who raised his hand.
Wow.
He said, I'll teach them.
Me.
So
that is crazy.
And that's how the NSCD began, with Hal teaching a group of kids from Children's Hospital in 1979 how to ski. And I know one of those kids, and he's obviously not a kid anymore. My buddy, who's an amputee skier, and he's still a good friend of mine. And so Hal, props to him for what he did. And but as the years went on, by the time I got to know him and he hired me, things had changed. He had kind of gotten back into the gotten away from being on the hill a lot. And the technology was changing, as I said. And so he needed to reach out to me to help him with certain sections of his book, and which I did. And then, of course, in the acknowledgments in the back, my name was misspelled. And of course, he knowing Hal, he blamed it on the publisher or whoever. But I always got a kick out of that. I was a big part of this book, and then in the acknowledgments, they misspelled my name. But I'm okay with it. But yeah,
and to speak to some of the business end of different things that are going on, a lot of times things come down to money, and to get that service to the people that really need it, you've got to have a massive volunteer effort that's willing to devote their time, but then you've got to figure out a way to create the financial wherewithal to where we could get this expensive equipment and entrance to the places to do all this stuff. And Matt, I've worked with you over a number of years, and you were always the guy in the field. Even though you were the founder of the Adaptive Adventures thing, you didn't like the office-y stuff.
I didn't
and the raising money.
Yep. I'm sorry. I never wanted to be the executive director. I always assumed
you were the guy that was out there in the garage tinkering on the bikes or making a new wakeboard ski or whatever, and actually getting out there and running programs.
Correct.
So
and
you have to.
At the end of my career, with Adaptive Adventures, I found myself doing more fundraising and less program stuff because it was necessary. And because of the
But
situation.
that was not your passion.
No, I do not like fundraising. I've never liked fundraising, but that's part of the gig with a nonprofit. You gotta surround yourself with people that that are good at that and that would like to support you. So I was able to do that, and I got pretty good at fundraising. I just didn't enjoy it. It's really hard to ask people.
And I remember you during those times. I would visit you at the corporate headquarters, and you have your dog Frazier and your black lab.
Yeah.
And we'd be out throwing the ball out in the parking lot, and it was an interesting thing because the thing that you're best suited for, you didn't want to do. Your disability would land you in an office type of deal, but that you actually wanted to be in the place where you were less equipped, out in the field. And the place where you're most equipped, being stationary in an office, you didn't want to do that job.
There's some truth to that, Mark. Yes, that's very astute.
Yeah, which I think is wonderful because you didn't take the easier path. No,
but I took the path more enjoyable. My office was outdoors. My office was the ski area. My office was a houseboat on Lake Powell or Cozumel, scuba diving in Cozumel. That was my office. I mean, how could you go wrong there?
Exactly.
But my last few years at Adaptive was spent more in the office, and it just became less and less fun. And I did have some success at it. I'd like to think I could do some fundraising. Hated writing grants. That's the most mundane, boring thing, but that's an evil, necessity for, having a nonprofit.
Just to touch on that just for a second, there's two halves of that, right? I mean, there's money for programs that comes in the form of grants, but then we've got to reach out to some of these nonprofits and give them office chairs and copiers.
Correct.
And things that aren't related to programming.
Yeah,
but
it's
are
restricted.
essential to put that together.
And most grant money is restricted. You have to spend it in a certain way. So then you have unrestricted when you go out and you throw a big dinner and you raise $100,000 or $200,000, and that's unrestricted money. And that's
then we can buy a filing cabinet or whatever.
Well, you can spend that on salaries. You can spend that any way you want. When we write a grant, a big grant for a couple $100,000, they're going to tell you how you spend the money. So that's the main difference. And but to me, it didn't matter as long as we had enough to keep the lights on and run programs and change people's lives. That's all that mattered. Money, I never made a huge salary doing what I love to do, but I wouldn't change a thing. I had many great years.
Yes.
And
I mentioned that just for people that have means that are looking at some of these charities. Look for the places where these people that are trying to do good need help.
Correct.
And get involved in that process.
Oh, I do. I do. I do a little bit of that as well. Too. I get phone calls all the time from people wanting to know what I did in this situation, or they need a little consulting. And so, my low battery flashed one more time. So I'm not sure if this is a good time to end, or
let's
go
ahead and shut it down, and we'll take some notes. Matt, thank you again for joining us.
Matt.
We appreciate you, and please reach out to us if there's ideas that you have of ways that we can, spread the message at this point.
It was my privilege to be on, and thanks for asking me. Always great to see you guys, and let's do it again.
All right, brother.
You are the man, Matt.
Have a Merry Christmas, and thank you again for everything that you've done with us and through your travels. it's super, super appreciated in the world.
Well,
I
thanks,
guarantee
Mark,
that.
and thank you, John, and happy holidays to both of you.
All right, buddy.
Mark, Merry Christmas.
Matt Feeney, what a great guy.
Great guy.
And so nice of him to come on. We you know, it's a PowerPoint that we have to just have you know, these wonderful people that we've had put in our path, and to tell some stories about those things. We didn't really get into a lot of stories, but I mean, it's a history that needs to be documented.
No, he's done well through the years. And one of the questions I kind of wanted to ask, but I didn't, is he lived a big part of his life able-bodied.
Yes.
And then it was taken away. And there's a completely different thought pattern between having a disability and going through your whole life with it, and or having your life the way it was, then it's taken away from you. I personally believe that it's more difficult to make that turn when you've known the difference, and to go forward. And it is a true measure of a person, how they adapt to their current situation, or do they just dwell on the past?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, John.
And mope on it. And that's one of the things I admire about Matt, is that, you know, I know there had to be very difficult years somewhere in there before he really made that turn to go, I'm embracing it. But he did. And Adaptive Adventures, a great organization. One of the hazards of being at the start of something, if you are the guy, eventually you do become the guy, and you become responsible for things that were not as enjoyable as why you got started. And so he's done a good job. I hope that he still has some relationship with Adaptive Adventures. I don't know. I would hope so, because they were good together.
Right. Well, there's no denying that whoever got involved in that organization at whatever level had a really wonderful experience helping people, no matter what bumps came in the road. I mean, you and I spent many years there helping folks out, and it was always an enjoyable situation. And, you know, it is tough to go from being, you know, completely
a normal life. Yeah.
But one of the things that happens is we all do it. You know, things get taken away from all of us, and maybe it's not a tragic thing, not, you know, an event, but it's like, I can't do what I used to do, and, you know, it pisses me off. You know, I can't get on my motorcycle and ride 500 miles right now. You know, I'm hoping I get back to that, but there's going to be a day when I don't get to. And you just have to deal with it.
Is that when you'll bequeath me the motorcycle?
Yeah, if you can ride them 500 miles, they're yours.
I can definitely do that.
John Faust, I don't think that there's anything that you can't do.
Well, someday in another time, we'll talk about my motorcycle years and how at the end my mother was running ads in the paper. At least I believe she was, because all of a sudden I was getting all these phone calls, people wanting to buy my motorcycles. And I'm like, and I am positive that she was running ads in the paper, and she was smart, because I was destined not to live if I kept those motorcycles.
I know.
But
now, was that in Oklahoma?
Yeah, someday, matter of fact, I'll send it to you offline. I'll send you a picture of me on my Triumph 650 in my more of my hippie-ish days on my bike, and you're going to look at it and go, that's you.
I love it. Was it a chopper?
It is a chopper. I'll send it to you.
Oh my God, I got to see that. I got to see that.
It is, and it was a great bike.
Post that on the Old Souls page.
You know, yeah, sure, I'm game with that.
There you go.
I got nothing to lose at this stage, so That's fine. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll send it to you first. Then
John, I want to tell you, I wish you a Merry Christmas. And I love you for doing this show. And I broadcasted over several channels today because I knew Matt was going to be on here.
Good
and
man.
I want the spirit of what this show does is just to reach out and show people they can do good.
Absolutely.
And they can help people, and a little bit of effort. It's amazing how something comes out of it.
No question. Hey, Mark, I know you got to get out of here. We'll call it a day. Merry Christmas. It was a great show. It started interesting. I mean, especially when Matt jumped on, upside down, but we got that worked out, which was kind of cool, actually.
He used to be a diver, so
yeah. I kind of like that part of the show. But anyway,
let's end it this way. If anybody has somebody that they think should be on the page, we would love to have them on and interview them. We'd love to have them on the show. We'd love to put some of their stories in a can and create an ebook out of it, or just a way to memorialize some of our veterans that have stories to tell. Anybody who has been around the block more than once is welcome to reach out to the show, talk to John or myself, and we will give your story a place to be told.
Perfect. You are
all right, everybody.
Okay,
John
Merry
Faust.
Christmas.
You too,
Okay.
brother. Love you.
Bye.
John Faust, Old Souls, and Sage Advice.